Testing again. I'm hoping this works. Testing. Testing. Trying to get this all to work. This is the first time I'm doing this again. Maybe. Pardon? Okay, just run with it. Welcome, dear viewer. I hope you can hear me. This is welcome to Growing Heroic Dads. This is episode 1, take 3, I believe. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be fun. I hope you find it valuable. I'm learning. I'm trying to practice. I would love to see your comments besides you haven't got this right. But anyway, it's going to be a learning experience. I'd love to find out what resonated with you throughout this chat and what you'd like to hear more on. I'll be sharing a little bit about the problems that I believe that we are facing in society with children impacted by absent fathers. Not to say it's all the dad's fault. I know things do happen. There are really complex family dynamics. I'll be sharing a little bit about my own story, as well as I'll be sharing some tools which we can use as fathers to grow heroic and how we can best support our children going forward. I'm a part of the heroic community, and I'll share a little bit later about what that is, and I really will encourage you to join me with that. I'll be sharing a bunch of quotes from experts, and I'll be giving my opinion as a dad, my experience raising two little ones. Yeah, in a nutshell, broken homes break hearts, and I believe we need to do what we can in order to heal those wounds. Ooh, I don't like that mouse. Hide that mouse. This is just a little overview. The Baldy, that's me. My name's Kyle West. I'll be giving a little introduction. I'll outline what the problem is that we're facing in society. Who is really impacted? Fathers, the children, of course, and the society as a whole. How our identity all comes into this. What we can use to measure along the way, how we can get better, how we can improve. What are some tools that we can take advantage of? What are virtues? What are our virtues? Should we care about them? As well as what are some fun things we can do with our kids? Some things that are a little bit out of the box, not really conventional, but are exciting and fun. Also, what are some of the daily practices that we can do in being a heroic parent? I'll also introduce you to the Heroic app and what's that's all about. And yes, I'll also present some giveaways and some prizes at the end. I'm quite excited for those. I'm excited. And yes, let's get straight into it. So who am I? I'm the Baldy. I'm Kyle West, and I am a heroic dad coach. My mission is to help fathers flourish and do everything that I can to help them raise another generation of heroes. And it starts with making dads heroes. And yes, being a single dad, I have walked this journey firsthand. I know exactly what it's like to go through that. Being married, getting separated, going through divorce, it's quite a hectic thing. And I'm just really on a mission to help other dads out there. Professionally, I've been an embedded electronic engineer. And what that means in a nutshell is I like to build things from the inside out, especially electronic things. And I've worked on a few electronic systems that we use in our everyday lives, but I've worked on the insides of these systems and I really understand them quite intricately. And I believe many of the principles that apply to electronics and software development actually apply to our lives. In other words, we have to design ourselves from the inside out. There's a lot of the mental game, the hidden world, which other people don't see, that it affects everything. And yeah, let's get into it. You might be asking as well on the slide, what's with all these mountains? And it comes from this book, The Second Mountain by David Brooks, where he writes about his own journey, so having gone through a divorce and a separation and all that. And he went to investigate, what is the actual meaning of life and the purpose of life? And he basically outlines in his book, he wants us to commit to living a life of meaning and purpose. And it's not all about the flashy cars and all the ego-driven things. how I look and all that. There's another aspect of it, and that's why I have mountains in my theme. It's just a reminder that we need to be on that quest for the second mountain of life. Myself, I got to that first peak. I thought I was doing well, and that's when things started to, well, things happened, and I went into the mountain, got to the valley, and now I'm climbing the second mountain. So yes, again, well, after my first marriage kind of collapsed and the house of cards slowly went up in flames, I started to ask some life-changing questions. Who am I? And what happened in the past? And what led me to make some of those choices that I shouldn't have made? And most importantly, who do I choose to become? Who do I actually want to be in 5 years' time, 3 years' time, 10 years' time? Like, who do I want to actually be, and how do I actually step into that person? All this was coming around, well, just before COVID hit in 2020. And since then, I've been studying and learning as much as I can. And I've really been committed to growth and growing. And yeah, that's so that's that. How many of you would agree that parenting needs to start with parenting yourself first, getting yourself right? And after having going through my own journey, it really resonated with me when I saw that. And I read Dr. Peterson's book, and his sixth rule was that you have to set your own house in perfect order before you criticize the world. And I can just remember so many times where, I was telling my kids, pick up your clothes and do these things and do these things. And like, how could I go and say those things authentically when I myself wasn't in perfect order? So I had to figure myself out. I had to commit to sorting myself out first. Here's another quote by quite an old school quote from Frederick Douglass, where he says, "It's easier to build strong children than it is to repair broken men." And I just really resonate with me. And one thing I learned over the last few years of study is that wisdom truly does stand the test of time. It doesn't matter how old a book is. And I used to think, that's an old book, I'm not going to read it. It doesn't have any value. But only after I started studying that I realized, well, so many books have timeless principles that can really change and impact your life. So I love seeing these old quotes. And here's another gem from Dr. Louise Hart, who basically tells us, if we don't shape our kids, they will be shaped by outside forces. They don't care what shape our kids are in. And it just really emphasizes the point in that we have to really accept our role hands-on and do the hard work of shaping our kids. Because if not, someone else will, and someone else will. Yeah, so many of us think that it's the school's job to raise the children and do everything for us, and that's also why it's so important to vet, who is looking after them when you aren't. Like, and when you do have your children, what can you do? What can you do in your power to make sure that they have that right foundation? So, going to get into a little bit of the problem. There is a crisis in the world, and there's been quite a few studies over the years that show that, in a nutshell, how broken homes end up breaking us. And there's articles that mention studies that were done where they researched different countries and just found, what percentage of homes didn't have fathers, what percentage what percentage of homes what percentage of homes didn't have fathers, and what were the related impacts in those environments, in those homes. And it comes down to dads not being present in the child's life, and it could be due to several factors. Of course, there's the cases where there's just single moms raising their kids. There's divorced or separated parents. There's widowed fathers. There's sometimes, as in my own case, there's just dads who love their kids, but they're just always working. They're hardworking dads, and they're not really there for the kids. And yeah, there's a really interesting book called The Boy Crisis. I really encourage you to look it up, boycrisis.org, and it's by the authors Warren Farrell and John Gray. John Gray, if you don't know, he wrote the book Men Are From Mars and those classic series. He is the #1 selling author in relationships books. He knows what he's talking about, and he co-wrote a book with Warren Farrell. And in a nutshell, he tells us that boys who hurt us. And it's not just boys as well. It's children that are lacking those deep relationships really start. They really get impacted. And he goes on to tell us there's a crisis of education, a crisis of mental health, crisis of fathering, and it's not always. It's not to say that it was always intentional. Things happen. Things happen. The family dynamics are very different. And just throughout his book, he really just tries to emphasize the importance of committing to your children and trying to build those strong relationships. And he tells us that what's more important in a nutshell is to give more of our time versus our dime. Kids value our time versus what we can give them. Yeah, so just in a nutshell, just outlining the case that there are problems in society, and some of them can be attributed to not enough fathers in the home. Going through it a little bit quickly, but yes, to the next. Yeah, so again, in the wake of my marriage falling apart, I stumbled onto this man, Jim Rohn, and my life forever changed. And I look at Jim now as my spiritual granddad, and I really believe he helped me through some of my dark times. And he tells us in one of his quotes that failure is subtle. Failure doesn't just happen immediately. It's not like a truck hits you and you've gone from success to failure. It's actually a series of small events that happen, small decisions that happen over a period of time that lead to a failure. And just it led to me asking, well, what decisions were I making on a day-to-day basis that were just taking me, off the path? Just little by little, it was taking me off the path until, things just got really bad. And to read his whole quote, he says, failure is not a single cataclysmic event, like a comet hitting. You don't fail overnight. Instead, failure is a few errors in judgment repeated every day. So it's just those small moment decisions. Should I be doing this? Should I be doing that? What happens if you don't do the right decisions for a long period of time? Well, you'll get off track. And it's really related to me. And I started to question who I was and who I could become and who I needed to be for my children. In order to be the best person that I could be, I had to go back to those small daily decisions. Those small daily decisions had to be the right decisions in the right direction to be the person that I needed to be for them. And it basically came down to think, well, what was the biggest gift I could give to my children? Like, what was the best gift that I could give them? Well, I thought, well, perhaps the best thing that I could give them is being my best for them. A few years ago, I was probably a level 2 person trying to deal with level 4 problems. It felt like my world was falling apart. And yeah, it was just really in those moments of adversity and struggle, you really begin to question these things. Another quote from Jesse Jackson. He says that your children need your presence more than your presence, just reminding us that they want to be with you more than just to have the gifts that you can give them. The biggest gift that you can give them is giving them yourself, being with them. Again, yeah, so in my own life, I had to give up the things that were holding me back, my own addictions that kind of led me down those -1, those bad decisions. I had to give those things up in order to start moving towards who I wanted to be. I had to start setting the goals and working actively towards them. So yeah, I share this journey as, again, there came a point in my life when I realized that in order to raise my children correctly, I needed to raise myself first. And I had to commit to being better, not just for me, not just to, "Huh, I'm going to get the six pack and all that and get strong and buff and fit." It just not for that at all. But it's about being strong and healthy and fit and making the wise decisions for my children, giving them the foundation. And most importantly, I think what I've learned over time is that it was about setting the habits. Like, what habits can I be teaching them? Because over time, when I was thinking wrong, when I was a level 3 person, I was teaching them inadvertently by doing the wrong things over a period of time. I was teaching them how to act. So, in a nutshell, we can intentionally, we need to rewire ourselves. There's an interesting study that basically tells us that what you measure in of itself improves. And there was a study a while back done where they gave step counters, pedometers to people, and they asked, can you just measure how many steps you do in a day? And it was just by the act of wanting to measure, did they end up walking a lot more than they had previously. And it's just a reminder that what you want to try and improve in your life, start to measure it. For example, if you want to start to get fitter, start to go back to measurement. Well, how many steps are you doing? How far are you running? Are you running to the post box and back? How many push-ups can you do? How many sit-ups can you do? Like, start to measure it. And with that itself, things will improve. And it also comes down to goal setting, moving closer towards your goal. So again, I'm just wanting to reiterate the importance of what are you repeatedly doing to get to your goal. In my journey, the last few years, where was that slide? I swear I showed it. I had a slide showing a pile of books. Over the years, I started to ask, I'm getting off the tracks here. I started to learn and study and just really try to improve. And I did actually get quite stuck down the rabbit hole of self-development and self-help. And there's a term of self-help hole. You just kind of go off the rails and kind of you get stuck. And I wanted to always improve myself for them. Really interesting book from James Clear. He's the author of Atomic Habits. He tells us, one of his big things is, he tells us that a lot of our habits are formed from how we see ourselves, our identity. Our identity drives a lot of our everyday behaviors. And I was just thinking back to when I was that level 3 person back in 2020. How was I looking at myself? How was I seeing myself? At the time, I was overweight, I was unfit, I was a lot broker than I am today. I was things were just very, very bad. There was a lot of adversity, and I was always playing the victim versus trying to find a way out of it. And it was basically a mindset that I had wrong. And James speaks in his book that the etymology of the word identity comes down to, it's your repeated beingness, who you are moment to moment. And that's what forms your identity, your repeated daily actions, who you are in the moment. Our identity drives our behaviors, which can drive our habits. And I'm just sharing a link here. If you're interested to look at at the book summary, you can take a look at habits.heroic.dad, and that'll link you to a philosopher's note of Atomic Habits. Really, really interesting book. And yeah, so again, I had to find a way to measure who was I in those moments and who did I want to become. So for example, that happier future Carl in a few years' time, how is that happier, stronger, fitter Carl living his life? What are the things that he does daily? He looks a lot happier, he's flourishing, but what are his daily routines and habits that he's doing that keeps him aligned and focused? What keeps him what keeps him aligned and focused when the storms come, when we get those difficult days, having to deal with things that you really don't want to deal with? What can keep you focused and aligned? Another thing that I'm not so sure whether it's James that speaks about it, but there's science that says what drives our behaviors are, sorry, what drives our identity are also our virtues that we have inside us. And virtues are things that are key to us. They're generally, they're unique to us. So for example, you might have a strong virtue of wanting to always feel love and wanting justice and things like that. Another virtue is courage and hope, and there's lots of virtues. And I encourage you to, if you haven't already done a virtue assessment before, to go to this website, viacharacter.org. And what they do is they ask you a set of questions. It's like a questionnaire. Millions and millions of people have done it. And I think it's just a multiple choice set of questions. And through answering those questions, they highlight what are your core virtues in your life. What is it that is really important to you? What is it at the core of your being is your strong thing? And it was, I don't know if I'm saying it wrong, Lao Tzu, who said that he who conquers others is strong, but he who conquers himself is mighty. And it just made me think that, well, we first have to know how we are wired, how we are driven. What is our personality like? Do we like engaging with others? Are we, what are we like? And we just have to get into finding out more. And that's where these little websites, websites can help. Socrates also said that to know thyself is the beginning of wisdom. It just goes back to that, knowing yourself at your core, that you basically build up yourself by knowing yourself. Oh no, I clicked on a link. Oh no, I keep clicking on links. There we go. So again, how does this relate to my children? Well, it comes down to, here's another quote from Bob Keeshan. He tells us that parents are the ultimate role models for our children. Every word, movement, and action has an effect. No other person or outside force has a greater influence on a child than a parent. Well, we need to remember that regardless, we will always be a model for your child. How do you act? What do you do? They will invariably end up copying. So, for example, if your kid's nagging you, Dad, come and play, and you keep brushing them off and pushing them to the side, over time, they're just going to learn what you're like, and they're going to become accustomed to that. No matter what, whether it's intentional or not, your children are going to learn from you. And I've seen this with my own son, actually, and it was quite weird. In the winter, I had started doing cold plunges. It was really, really cold, and I wanted to recommit to my winter baptism from the year prior. And my son thought I was a madman from doing plunging in the cold pool, like first thing in the morning. And just over time, with me doing this habit, being a crazy person, going into the pool, putting myself through that, adversity of getting cold, just being in the moment. Did he want to start trying it? And I was like, at first I was like, are you crazy? But now over time, it's actually become a routine that we as a family like to do. I'll go jump in the pool, and next thing I know, he's in his baggies jumping in the pool, and that's really, really interesting. Again, it's a little bit about that. So what are some questions that we can ask as parents? And Lanny Basham, in his book Parenting Champions, he asked the question, what is more important to you, what your children accomplish or who they become? And he throughout his book also just encourages us to focus on, what are their virtues, who are they becoming, versus what are they just achieving. And I believe it was Carol Dweck in her book Mindset was saying something similar. And she was in a book Mindset, she discussed the difference between a fixed mindset and a growth mindset. And one of the key things that she said in her book was that when giving feedback to children, we also we don't focus on them, don't attack their character, but just celebrate. Getting stuck in the words. I'm kind of going off script, that's why I'm getting a little bit messed. It'll come back to me. But yes, it's basically saying just focus on the right things. And it got me thinking of what quality time am I investing in my children? The time that I'm giving them, am I really giving to them? So for example, when I pick up my children, am I just coming back to my office and doing my work and they're just running around? Or am I spending one-on-one time with them? Am I really connecting? Because that's where the value is. And notice how I said, you probably did, that what quality time are you investing versus spending? But you're not just spending and wasting time with it, you're investing it in a future relationship. You're trying to build that relationship, and that comes moment by moment. It's not just spent, it's not just, I wasted a day with the kids. It's, wow, I got to spend a day with my kids. What an amazing day. Versus, I had to just play, I had to do this. Like, it's just a mindset difference. Again, this was just a little reference to Lanny Basham's book, How Can I Parent a Champion? If you're interested in checking out his Philosopher's Note, his detailed book summary, you can check out that link, bclb.heroicdad. We'll bring up this this book review. There's a 20-minute audio or a 6-page PDF. And yeah, throughout his book, Lanny just asks some real profound questions on how we can just encourage our children to become. He gives us this description of the word attainment and shows that it's not just about what they achieve in the moment, but it's about who they're actually becoming through the attainment. Attainment is not just about getting, it's about becoming as well. Another interesting course, if you're interested, is this Fatherhood 101 discussion. It's I believe it's an hour-long presentation. Also at fatherhood.heroic.dad, if you're interested in taking a look. Also another set of questions to ask. What can you practice day by day and doing? This leads on to what is the... keep clicking these links. What is the Heroic app? And this is something that I've been using in my own life. So for example, these little snippets here are snippets from the Heroic app. And what it's done, well, where I found it actually is, I am an avid reader. I've got quite a big library and I love reading books. And I found this app a while ago. And what the founder did is that he would go and read these self-development books that are 300 pages long. And then he would then summarize, like, what are the key points that, you could just give someone else the nuggets of the book without having to read the book. It takes time to read a book. And so what they did over time is that this person, Brian Johnson, he read hundreds and hundreds of self-development books, and he made very detailed, concise summaries that have some of the core nuggets, the real flesh, the 80% of the stuff you should know about the book. And he put them in these condensed, what he calls Philosopher's Notes. And they've now developed this app. So for example, if you're interested in becoming fitter or become fitter or healthier, then there's books that they've gone through that teach you those type of things. Like they have read books not just in that domain, but in a lot of domains, and they have a lot of these, as I said, these summaries. And where else it gets into is that they've built this into a platform where you can, as a community, you can go through a set procedure of fundamentals in terms of how to become more heroic. I'm getting a little bit stumbled. But yes, I encourage you just to give it a check, just to take a look. They are offering a free 30-day premium. You can get access for free. You can see what they're all about. You don't have to pay a cent, and you can get access to taking a look at books like this or books like that, or any of the other hundreds or thousands of books that they've done, and you can see like what they're really about. And there's also other courses that they've got in there. They've also got coaching. They've got other platforms. Just really do encourage you just to take a look. That's just a little bit more about it, how it goes into it. One of the other key things that this Heroic app does is that they've architected a system where they try to improve your behaviors over time by setting very specific goals. So, for example, in the morning, I'll open up the app and I'll commit to who I choose to be in this particular day. And they've split it up into different domains. For example, when it comes to my fitness and my energy, who should I commit to being that day? Do I want to commit to being a strong athlete? Cool, great. How does a strong athlete act? What do they do? What steps do they follow? And they build it up on an identity basis. So they allow you to commit to an identity you want to be that day. And then they say, okay, well, that identity that you've committed to being, what actions are they going to do throughout the day to do that? And just really helps you move closer to that identity you want to be. So throughout the day, you swipe and you hit your targets. And little by little, over time, you're becoming closer to what you want to be. Great. Now to some of the fun stuff. Just wanted to chat about some of the things that I've done with my kids that I think is really, really helped my relationship with them, and something that I want to encourage you to do with your kids. And I've used what is called is a promise to them. So I've made a heroic dad promise. I've committed that this is how I will be to them. And I have this as a target with my children. After our meditation, I remind them, this is who I am, and this is the promise that I give to you. And it just serves as an anchor for them that, dad's there for me. He's looking out for me. And I really want to encourage you to do something similar. Get a pen and paper, write it out, put it on the wall, and let it always be there as a reminder that that's how I'm committing to being. And something else you're going to do reciprocally is they could also do what is their commitment to you from child to a parent, and that could probably come a little bit later. The other thing I want to encourage you is to take a look at some of the timeless classics which probably they haven't seen, but which are really, really awesome in terms of like they teach us some of the virtues that we kind of take for granted these days. And I must admit, when my kids say, "Dad, I'm feeling a little bit bored," I'll go and put one of these old 1960s or 70s movies, and they'll kick and scream for a few minutes, and then they'll go and sit and watch, and then they'll be glued. And I just really found there's just so much morals that these old movies are trying to teach, and I really want to encourage you to do the same. And like for example, my son loves to sing some of the songs from Sound of Music and Willy Wonka, and I just encourage you to take a look at some of the old movies, and it helps break free from the overstimulated life we have with these high definition animated movies. Just take a look at some of the old ones. It's just really is so much good value there. Some giveaways. I want to just announce I'm really proud to be able to give a giveaway. My own coach. So this is Brian Johnson. They have made an offer to basically you can stand a chance to win a set of books. You can stand to win this amazing Aura ring. You can get personal coaching with them. And personally, Brian's helped me. He's really helped me along my journey. And every day, whenever I use the app, the community of heroes that I'm a part of, they really help inspire me. They help push me forward. I really do believe it's an insane giveaway. I've entered myself, and I really encourage you. I feel I'd be doing you a disservice if I didn't share the link. So I really just want you just to sign up and see what you think. And the other thing I also wanted to mention as well, which I probably shouldn't mention, but I can mention, is that if there's ever an issue of affordability when it comes to signing up for one of their programs or using the app or anything like that, is that they have scholarships that you can, based on your affordability, you can get a percentage off, probably 100% off. And they just really are truly committed to seeing a world that is flourishing. And I really am proud to be with them on that journey. And yeah, I wish you luck. Please enter. And from my side, I am also offering some free heroic dad coaching, and I'm busy authoring a book. I'm busy authoring some programs and courses, and I'm busy tweaking. And I would really like to get your input and your feedback. And if you're up to it, I'd love to do a coaching session with you. And yeah, I really hope that you have found this presentation valuable. This was my first. I had a little bit of stumbles to start. I still have to get used to how everything works. Yeah, again, I just really encourage you to check out the resources. I want to say thank you so much for your time. I really hope that you just found some value there. This is going to be a target swipe for me, by the way. This was connecting to my community. This was stepping out of my comfort zone. I'm probably looking like a big idiot, but I'm stepping out of my comfort zone. I'm trying to learn. There's a saying where it says like you can either win or you can learn, and learning is winning. So I'm not going to see any of this as a failure. I made some mistakes, but I'm going to learn from those mistakes. It's winning or learning. No matter what, we're going to win. And yeah, this was my first live event, and yeah, it's been a good experience. And I really, again, thank you again for your time. We'll connect soon.